Sadly, one of the main things people remember about Thomas Jefferson today is not that he wrote the Declaration of Independence. It's not that he was the vice president or the third president. It's not that he was the only person to serve as vice president and to then serve 2 full terms as president. Nor is it that he helped establish the public school system, the monetary system. He repealed the Alien and Sedition Acts, which was threatening freedom of the press and freedom of immigration. Sadly, what people remember about Thomas Jefferson was that he was a slaveholder. He owned slaves because of his family, gained a lot of them through his marriage. He continued to use them to build Monticello and to serve him and work on his plantation throughout his life. This seems remarkably hypocritical, considering how he wrote that all men are created equal, and every man should have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Even more controversial is the relationship he is reported to have had with Sally Hemings, one of his slaves. The history of her with his family is quite fascinating because she was, you could say, his property through his marriage to his wife, and she was a half-sister of his wife, because his father-in-law, after having 3 wives, all of whom died, ended up taking a slave woman as a mistress, and he had several mixed-race children with her, and one of these was Sally Hemings. And it's believed that Thomas Jefferson had a similar relationship with Sally Hemings after his wife died, having vowed to her that he would never remarry. We can't be 100% sure one way or another, although there are some claims that there's been DNA testing that, in fact, her children are related to him. It is known, though, that he had an agreement with her that when all her children reached the age of 21, he would free them. And it was also noted that there were a lot of servants or slaves around Monticello who were so fair-haired and skinned with auburn hair that they could easily pass for white, and that the children did so since they were only 1/8 African by that point. So what do we say about Thomas Jefferson? How can we rationalize this and really look at how he felt about slavery and the individuals of human beings? Clearly, from a moral standpoint, it's in questionable taste to have a mistress of any kind. But was that one of those cases where the slave owner forces himself on a slave woman, or was it a case where she was more of almost like a wife, except that they weren't married? Well, all we know is that Jefferson was against the basic concept of slavery. He advocated and eventually enforced the permanent ban of the slave trade in the United States. So he stopped the influx of slaves to the United States. Before he became president, he wrote that he thought slavery was cruel, un-American, and not the right thing, that it was against the ideas of liberty. And throughout his writings, you'll see consistent repetitions of the idea of easing out of slavery. He thought it needed to be a slow, gradual leaving, although it was horrible, because he said if we try to just drastically ban all slavery, it's bound to lead to more bloodshed and cruelty than we would have if we stayed with it. Obviously, he was predicting what did happen with the Civil War. It was quite a horrible chapter in American history as brother was turning against brother. So no doubt he, being a Southerner, knew how difficult it would be for many parts of the United States to function without that slave labor. It was one of those cases where he knew it was wrong, but he didn't feel like he could stop it, even in his own personal life, because it was too deeply entrenched. So he stopped the slave trade, but he didn't do anything further than that, while acknowledging it was wrong.